Okay, we are live, and it looks like we're going to have about a 1 minute, 45-second pregame show. We're coming up on a 5 p.m. Eastern Time show scheduled live event. And let's take a look here. We've got on the Time Chain Calendar. This is a really cool app, timechaincalendar.com. You can add it to your phone. It's just a web app. So you just add a shortcut and you go on your phone, and this gives you all the pertinent information about what's going on with Bitcoin. And you can see the price is $31,395 up there in the upper right-hand corner. So Bitcoin pumped today. So that's one of the reasons why we're going to revisit this conversation. The other thing is, I saw on a Rolex forum yesterday, somebody was asking a question about two different Sea Dweller models, which he should buy, which would be a better investment. And so here we keep seeing this investment thing with Rolexes, and unfortunately, that ship has sailed. The especially the steel watches that were overhyped, those prices are coming down big time. It's getting really hard to sell a steel Rolex. Remember, there's nothing special about a steel watch. Just keep that in mind. So yeah, I've got a few things I'm going to play here real quick, just so we get this thing spooled up. And this is what the Bitcoiners that are hodling Bitcoin, this is how they react.
Boy, I'll say one thing. You sure don't let things worry you none.
Worry? We ain't got no worries, lad. We make out fine, just fine.
There you go. As George C. Scott put it, we ain't got no worries. We'll work out just fine. I also listened to a podcast yesterday, and it's a financial podcast by Rick Edelman, and I highly recommend it. Although he promotes crypto a lot, he still doesn't understand it's Bitcoin, not crypto. But anyway, I'll give him a pass on that for now. But he did a piece on real estate. I think it was released yesterday or today. I think it was released today, actually, and it is looking grim as far as real estate goes. There are some comeuppance going to happen. A lot of people are losing big money, especially in commercial real estate. Really interesting. I'm glad that the only real estate I have these days is real estate I plan on living in. I got rid of my rental properties, and so yeah. So real estate's looking dicey. Stocks, bonds, especially bonds, all of that's looking dicey. And so some serious people are starting to look at Bitcoin. They're looking at Bitcoin, right? And so today it pumped, I think, on probably on that news, on that case with Ripple. Maybe that helped pump Bitcoin a little bit. But the supplies are dwindling. The supplies that are available on the exchanges are dwindling. There are fewer and fewer sellers. And so things are getting tight. Let's see who we have here in the comments. We got Stig in the house. He says, good evening, Craig and everybody. And let's see. Boozer's in the house. And he says, is this an emergency? Yes, this is an emergency live stream. Craig, are you going to buy a new Daytona from an AD when you can get one for 20% off? I don't like the Daytona. I never liked the Daytona watch. I like the case design, which is a similar case to the Yachtmaster. I like the case, but I don't like the busy dial. I don't like the chronograph feature. I don't need any of that. I much prefer, for a sport watch, Rolex, I much prefer a GMT Master. That's what I always wore in rotation with a Date 8 GMT Master. So, and we did have a report yesterday in the Zello app on the GMT. The gentleman looked at the steel and gold GMT, the new one for 2023. But he didn't go to the right store to look at the all gold one yet. So we're still waiting on a report on the all gold. There's some questions as to whether or not that dial color and the bezel, whether or not that's really the way it should be. It's kind of like a gray versus a real dark gray, almost black. So I haven't seen it in person yet. So we're going to hold judgment until we have more information. So we talked about that the other day, the GMT Master in all gold. Now, speaking of gold prices have just been flat. Gold has been doing nothing. I think that people are starting to wake up and they're starting to realize that gold is not the way to go. And people that would normally be buying gold in a time like this, when there's a lot of uncertainty out there, maybe some of those people are buying Bitcoin instead. Maybe that's what's happening. So, yeah. And also the other question is, okay, so is a day date the way to go? And then somebody was saying yesterday that they like the 36 mil over the 40. And I might agree with that. I might agree that the 36 mil might be the way to go. All this hype on these bigger watches, maybe it's a fail. Maybe it's a fail. This watch here is 38.5 mils, which is really as big as I would want for a dress / all around watch. This is a pretty good size. I really kind of wish they made the day date in more of an in-between, like a 38 mil. I think that would be a good compromise. I think going all the way to 40 mil is a little bit much for a day date. Let me configure one here real quick, just how we would configure it. And let's say we were doing a 40 mil. Let's do that. So we'll start. Of course, we would always go with yellow gold. We don't want a copper colored Rolex, for God's sakes. Now the bezel, we would go with fluted. The dial, I think we would go with okay, so that's a bright black with diamonds. That is pretty impressive looking. I'm not a diamond guy, but we did have a firsthand report that these look really good with that particular dial. So that would up it to 43,000 on a day date 40. And interesting, here's a onyx set with diamonds, 49,000. That looks stunning too. So that might actually be the way to go. Whoops. Okay. See if we can get a bigger picture here. There we go. That might actually be the way to go. Something like that. We need the full report on the GMT before we decide. Okay. Can you explain blackjacks, etc. ETF? Can you explain blackjacks, etc. ETF? Not exchange traded fund. I'm not familiar with blackjacks. Are you talking about the ETFs in general, like BlackRock? Okay. So there's a whole bunch of applications for ETFs, and there's rumors that one of them might get approved. BlackRock's a big player, so they carry a lot of weight. I don't know if it's going to get approved this time. Eventually, there'll be an ETF. But remember, this is still a very young asset, and it's volatile, and there is potential manipulation, where people dump a bunch of Bitcoin and try to get the price to dump so that they can then buy some cheap Bitcoin. That goes on, right? That happens. So that's why the Security Exchange Commission is hesitant to approve an ETF at this point in time. But I think at some point, as the market matures, when Bitcoin gets up to about a a $2 trillion market cap, 4 times what it is now. I think by then they'll have to approve one. So it could be a couple years. It could be sooner. Yeah, I mean, BlackRock has a lot of pull, a lot of pull. Maybe they'll get theirs approved. Craig, with your freakishly large forearms, you can rock the 40 mil. Do they look freakishly? Do they look freakish? Let me know in the chat if they look freakish. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it would be so perfect if they had one in between. If they had a 38 mil, I think that would be the sweet spot. I think they went a little too far with the 40. That being said, I haven't tried one on. And I don't know if I'll go that way. I mean, I might just get the GMT if we get a really good report on the GMT. I'm probably going to go down and see it myself because Aaron has one down at the AD that I bought my day date from many years ago. And she said I could come down and take a look. Blue's in the house. Hi, I see we are live. I'm working, so I can't participate, but I wanted to say hello. Maybe we'll see you all in Sarasota sometime or the motorbike tour out west. Blue in the house. Okay. All right. And Lost Spring Bar is here. He says they may approve one very soon. I mean, yeah, it's the people that are really kind of like in the know, most of them I've heard kind of give it a coin toss, like a 50-50. Some people are still saying it's more like only a 10% chance that it'll get approved. But again, BlackRock is a big player. They have a lot of influence. So what'll be interesting is if they do approve BlackRock's, but then they don't approve the others, which are pretty much all the same, right? That'll really tell us something, right? But if they just approve like 5 or 6 of them all the same day so that nobody has an unfair advantage, then that'll be interesting too. And Lost Spring Bar, I agree that a 38, 39 millimeter day date would be perfect. Yeah, why is it that we know these things and the watch manufacturers do not? Why is it that we've got this figured out and the watch manufacturers do not? Does this make any sense? Craig, isn't it time of the year to wear the 231? We talked about that. I talked to Lost Spring Bar about that about the sweatiness and all that, and it really hasn't been a problem. I've worn mine quite a bit in the hot weather, and my arms don't really sweat that much unless I'm exerting myself, tennis, volleyball, something like that, then they'll sweat, right? But generally speaking, I can wear this in any circumstance, and I haven't really had a problem at all. And it is so much more comfortable than the 231. The 231 is comfortable, don't get me wrong. It's the most comfortable sport watch I've had because of the titanium. But this thing just disappears on my hand. I'll leave and I'll think, oh, damn, I forgot to put my watch on. I'll look at my wrist and it's there, right? I literally forget. It's so comfortable. So, and yeah, I would sell I've said many times, I would sell the 231. There's the 231, by the way. Whoops, not there. There's the 231. I've said many times, I would sell that. I would sell the 231 and just wear the 002 all the time if somebody stepped up. But people have talked about buying the 231, but they've just been talkers. They've just been talkers so far. Let's see. The 40 millimeter GMT looks smaller than the 40 millimeter day date because the dial is much smaller due to the bezel. Yeah, that's what people don't understand is the dial on a GMT, believe it or not, is about the same size as a 36 mil Datejust dial. Can you imagine that? Isn't that hard to fathom? But it's almost the same measurement. So yeah, absolutely. See, this dial looks huge on this 38.5 mil watch. It looks huge. I can't imagine how huge the dial looks on a date 840. course, it's 38 and a half versus 40. That's not a huge difference, but yeah, this looks noticeably bigger than like the dial on like a GMT Master or something. And by the way, this is pretty legible. This dial is pretty legible. Lost spring bar in the house. I'm surprised too. Look at the Explorer. It went from 36 to 39 to 36 to 40 over the past 10 years. You'd think Rolex would measure 10 times and cut once, but they didn't. Yeah. Why don't they hire us, Lost Spring Bar? Why don't they hire us as consultants? We can straighten all this out. We can straighten all this mess out. Tim's in the house. He could get involved. He could be a consultant. In Japan, I tried one of those new GS watches with manual spring drive, 38.5 mil, perfect size and thin. So did you try the one, you tried the one in stainless steel? Tell us which one you tried on, Tim. Stig's in the house. Craig, what about wear and tear on the leather? Is still yes, that's what's amazing is it's holding up great. And this is not the original strap. The original strap I still have, and it's in perfect condition. It's hardly been used at all. But anyway, this is by HD Straps, and it's been on for a couple years now. And he said that it would be more durable than the original strap. He said that the leather that's on the inside, let me take it off here a second. He said this leather on the inside is stronger and would hold up better to sweat and stuff like that. And it's almost as comfortable as the original one. The original one, the leather on the inside is really soft, really soft. This is pretty close. It's a trade-off, obviously. This is a more durable leather, so it's not as soft, but it has held up. I'm looking at it right now. It has held up great. I did clean it once with some leather cleaner. I just kind of cleaned it a little bit on the inside, but it's looking great. I'm telling you, it's looking great. And I've worn this watch a lot. I don't baby it either when I'm wearing it. I wear it. I've had it out in the rain. So yeah. Craig, would you give credit to Tudor for releasing sport watches in 38, 39, and now 37? I just don't like the watches. First of all, the hour hand on most of them is ugly. The watches just look like a cheap Rolex. And I'm like, if I want a decent watch, I want a decent watch. I'm either going to wear like a, I don't know, a $700 Seiko if I want to save money, or I'm going to step up to a Rolex. I'm not going to buy the in between, marginal watch, which is what a Tudor is. I'd pass on the Tudor. Okay. I wish Durr was here to give his opinion on the 37 millimeter Black Bay 54. 40 millimeter day silver stick dial is the way to go. Okay, let's pull that up. See, we'll get a time check here while we're doing this. A silver stick dial. Let's see if I can find the silver stick dial. We'll cut to this while I'm doing it. Okay. I don't see a silver stick dial. I got this gold dial with diamonds. Where's the oh. Okay, here we go. There's a silver. I wonder what it looks like in person, because that looks a little bit too gray to me on the website here. Because my day they called it a silver dial, and it was more towards white than that. It didn't. I don't know. I'd have to see that in person. Yeah. Okay. Craig, what would be the perfect 18 karat gold bracelet design for your gold stunner oyster beads of rice mesh? I I like the beads of rice. I think that would look great on this. Yeah, I could go for the beads of rice. Absolutely, and they should have offered that. Craig, yes, stainless steel, special edition blue dial. Have to leave now, go to run, enjoy hot spring. Go for it. Absolutely. BlackRock is the wolf in the hen's house. Yeah, well, here's the thing. The really cool thing, and Durr's in the house, the really cool thing about Bitcoin is all these big players can try to get involved and try to manipulate it and try to get control of it and all that, but they can't. They can't control Bitcoin. That's the beauty of it. That it's like outside of their sphere of influence, right? They can't call up the CEO and lean on him, right? Good luck finding the CEO of Bitcoin. Uh, They're in the house. Patek and Rolex are the best investment. Black Bay 54 is a lady's watch for a woman that can't afford a Rolex. Um, so you think as the prices continue to dive, when do you think we're going to hit bottom, Dur, on the Rolex prices? And then do you think there'll be a recovery? Because I think we're going to hit bottom at where they should be, which is you can go into an AD and get a discount. And you can get them for substantially less on the used market. A used watch will be like 20, 30, 40% off of list. That's normal. That's the normal Rolex market. And I think that's what we're going to return to. And I think we're going to stay there. I don't think we're going to have another bubble like this, especially as China goes into a total tailspin. Their economy is going to go totally in the toilet. So I think that's where we're headed. So what do you think? What do you think? Do you think there's going to be a recovery? It's going to continue to crash and burn, and then there's going to be a recovery? Or do you think it's going to crash and burn and stay there? The 231 looks like it's running faster than usual. I heard that not only were the spring drive movements locking up, but also running about 30 seconds fast per day. You know, it's interesting. I heard some rumors about some things like that, but I talked to Steve and he says he hasn't seen any problem at all with the spring drives. So, and he sells a lot of them. So I think a lot of those rumors were not based in fact. I've tried that silver dial yellow gold date in person and it's amazing. Okay. Does it look as gray as it does in this picture here? Or does it look more silverish in person? Do tell. Maybe it looks like the silver that I had. Mine was called a silver dial. Let's pull mine up. Where is it? Here we go. Now that's not a good picture of the dial because of the angle and the way the light's hitting it. But that was referred to as silver, that dial on my date. So, yeah. Okay. Bitcoin is the Titan submarine of investments. It's imploding. It's funny, you know, these people. I have a friend up in Pennsylvania that he still swears up and down that Bitcoin is first he says it's a Ponzi, then he says it's a pyramid scheme, right? Those are two different things, right? But anyway, I don't see how it fits either of those definitions because a pyramid scheme implies that there's somebody at the top, right, that then benefits from the two people below them and then the people below them. And then those usually go down 7 levels, these multi-level marketing pyramid scheme things. They usually go down 7 levels. That's how they're constructed, right? Bitcoin doesn't have that construction. I mean, I can buy Bitcoin and then I can get somebody else to come into Bitcoin and they're not under me. I don't benefit then when they buy Bitcoin, you know, and then like 7 layers underneath them. I don't have any benefit at all from any of them, right? And there really isn't anybody at the top. There's no boss of Bitcoin. If that was Satoshi, he's been gone for years. Nobody's heard from him, right? So I don't think it meets the criteria for a pyramid. And then as far as a Ponzi scheme, it doesn't really meet that either because, again, there's nobody in charge that is taking money from new investors and then paying off previous investors. That's the way the Ponzi works, right? And so I don't think it really meets that definition either. So I don't know. I don't know what people are thinking. Craig, were you ever tempted by FTX? No, no, I just buy and hold Bitcoin. I don't trade. I think it's too risky to try to time the market and trade and all that. I did a little bit of that years ago, way before FTX ever existed or any of that. But in 2016, that's when Adam Meister convinced me just to buy and hold. And ever since then, I've just been buying and holding. So yeah, I don't get involved. I did get some yield on, I used for a period of time, I did use, what's that one that Peter McCormick promoted? BlockFi. I did use BlockFi and I actually earned some Bitcoin by depositing some Bitcoin with them and all that. But when I started getting feelings that those kinds of things were getting shaky, I took my money out of there. I also had some on crypto.com that I was getting a yield from. I took my money out of there, and that was months and months before the crash. Crypto.com didn't crash, but of course these others, a lot of them went out of business. So I earned like almost 2 Bitcoin of yield from some of those platforms, but I only had a small percentage of my Bitcoin with them. So I wasn't putting it all at risk. But and I still think yield programs, I still think there's a place for that as the market matures. But I'm going to wait until all the dust settles and then decide if I'm going to use any other programs like that. I think Bitcoin is going to zero and the Daytona is going to $1 million. Now that's interesting. This is a perfect example. I'm glad you brought that up there because this is the asymmetric aspect of Bitcoin. This is why Bitcoin is so interesting. It is an asymmetric bet. And what I mean by that is the downside, if you buy 1 Bitcoin right now, it's what, $31,000. Your downside exposure is $31,000. That's how much you can lose, is $31,000. Your upside, if Bitcoin does what a lot of experts say it's going to do over the next 10 years or so, your upside literally is $1 million in purchasing power and maybe more than that. So your downside is 31,000 and your upside is $1 million because Bitcoin is limited to 21 million units. So that is what we call an asymmetric bet, where your upside is significantly more than your downside. So thanks for pointing that out there. And of course, that's not the case with Rolex watches. The upside is limited. It's not anywhere near that significant. There's no Rolex that you're going to buy for 31,000 and then 10 years from now you're going to sell it for $1 million. Now that's in purchasing power. It might be 2 or 3 million, but with inflation, right? But your purchasing power would be $1 million. That's not going to happen with any Rolex. You'd be lucky if it doubled in value. You'd be lucky if it keeps up with inflation. Most Rolexes over time do not keep up with inflation. Okay, Lost Spring Bar. I think bottom is coming in on the Rolex. Canary in the coal mine is precious metal models plummeting right now. Soon everything except the top stainless steel models will be in showcases in the next 18 months. And I think it's going to stay that way. I think once that happens, it's going to stay that way. Especially, like I say, when China's economy goes totally south, because their real estate thing is a total bubble. They're totally screwed. The silver doesn't look as great. It's more silver and even bounces. Some of the gold off the watch matches really well. Yeah, that's what I liked about the silver dial on mine. It's a gorgeous dial. It really is. Yes, it is. Let's see here. I like the champagne GS dials. Looks plain in pictures, but stunning in person. I hear you. Yeah, it's hard to capture what a Grand Seiko looks like in pictures. It really is. You really have to see them in person. I wonder if GS will release another 100 fugly watches again this year. with BS inspirational story dolls. Yeah, I don't understand why any of these makers do all these special edition watches. Omega does the same kind of thing. It's just way too confusing. It makes no sense. They should just have basic models like Rolex does and call it a day. I mean, you don't need a whole bunch of different models of watches. I mean, you just don't. So, but again, they don't ask us. They would rather just wing it. They don't ask for our expert opinion. Stiggin asks, Rolex makes one, I guess he's thinking million watches per year or more. The world economy is not in good health. China not excluded. I wonder who is buying all these watches. I do not get it. I do not understand this. Well, no, there are end users. Okay, there are probably end users for a million watches. I mean, there's billions of people on the planet, right? There's a lot of wealthy people. So there are literally, I think, 75 million millionaires, right? And millionaires can afford to buy a Rolex. But here's the deal. Here's the reason why there have been shortages and why we had this price bubble. It's because a bunch of people that have been buying the Rolexes have been speculators. They've not been end users. They've been speculators and or collectors, quote, collectors / investors, whatever you want to call them. People that buy like 10 stainless steel watches and have them in a box and think they're going to go up in value. That's who's been buying these watches the last several years. And that's why we've had these artificially inflated prices. And it is artificial. And when these people start waking up and realizing that they made a huge mistake buying all these steel Rolexes and then try to sell them, when they all start trying to sell them at the same time, you think the price is crashing now. Wait until these people really start selling. I don't think they're selling yet. I think most of these people are still sitting on their watches hoping that the market turns around or whatever. And some of them are actually still buying more watches. So they haven't realized what's happening yet. And they haven't realized, how bad a decision they made buying a whole bunch of watches when they really can't afford them. They really, maybe a lot of them shouldn't even have bought one watch in the first place. So unfortunately, the chickens are going to come home to roost, and it's not going to be pretty. During the house, there's plenty of available Bitcoin, and people aren't buying it. Rolex makes 1 million watches a year, and you can't walk into a store and get one. Don't throw away your money on fake money / Bitcoin. Oh God, this is great. And see, a lot of people are in denial. A lot of people are in denial. They don't realize how screwed they are. And so, yeah, that's how it works. And it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see how these groups on Facebook and these forums and all this stuff, how they deal with this when it really starts becoming a reality that they've been part of this whole hype train and that they've basically screwed over a whole bunch of people by pumping these watches and so forth and getting people to buy all these watches as investments. I wonder if they're going to acknowledge the fact that they screwed a lot of people over. They probably will not. Be my guess is they will not admit their culpability. There's no way a typical steel Rolex will be worth 10 million down the road. Bitcoin will be. I mean, it's just math. It's simple math. 21 million Bitcoin, if you think about it, that is not very many Bitcoin. I just said that there's 75 million millionaires. The millionaires can't each own one whole Bitcoin. And then you factor in a lot of millionaires that are buying many Bitcoin, like Michael Saylor owns, I think, 150,000 now. It's an insane number of Bitcoin. So you got to realize when these millionaires and billionaires start waking up and start realizing how scarce Bitcoin really is and what it is, when they start realizing that and they all want some Bitcoin, Katie bar the door, because it's not going to be easy to get. I'll put it this way. Anybody 10 years from now that has one whole Bitcoin, that's going to be very rare. That's going to be very rare. I'll put it that way. You think some of these Rolex watches are rare. Having one whole Bitcoin 10 years from now, that's what's going to be rare. Boozer's in the house. Dura's on his A game today. Lost Spring Bar in the house. Problem for Rolex is the crime out there. They are the most targeted watches, and big cities are too dangerous to wear them. Yeah, but that's also going to calm down too. As all the hype starts fading and all that, that'll go back more to normal as well, because the watches won't be as sellable, and the thieves won't be as excited to get them, because they're not going to be able to get anywhere near as much money for the stolen watch that they can now. And so that'll calm down some too with all the hype, as the hype calms down. Back in the day, I didn't hesitate to wear my day date anywhere I went. Of course, I wasn't going in dicey areas, generally speaking, and I usually had security with me as well. So, but yeah, I wore my day date, everywhere. I didn't worry about it. I didn't have insurance on it. So, I told the story about the one guy that did try to step to me in Baltimore to take the watch. And fortunate for him, he backed down, because I was going to leave him there, on the ground. But yeah, he backed down. Dur's in the house. Parents should realize false. A fake coin can be worth what a Grand Seiko is worth today. Absolutely zero. A fake coin. What's a fake coin? Okay. It's great. Dur brings up a lot of good points with some of his posts. And this is another reason why Bitcoin is so interesting and is so valuable, is it cannot be counterfeited. Unlike a Rolex watch, it can be counterfeited. A $100 bill, US dollar bill, it can be counterfeited. All these other things can be counterfeited relatively easily. Bitcoin, it's very easy for you to verify that you have Bitcoin. Absolutely, positively have it. And it's not difficult. And that it's real Bitcoin. And so it's extremely difficult to quote fake a Bitcoin, counterfeit a Bitcoin. It's impossible, really, if you self-custody your Bitcoin. Right now, if you have your Bitcoin on an exchange and they promise you that you have one Bitcoin, that may be a fake Bitcoin. They may not actually have that Bitcoin. But if you have it in your custody, which you should, it's very easy to do, then no, that's a real Bitcoin. Nothing anybody can do about that. What dress watch do you suggest other than the 002? I really couldn't suggest one unless you bought the quartz watch that Brianna has now. That it's let me get the model number here correct. I think it's the SBGX 038. SBGX 038. That's a 9F quartz movement 18 karat gold dress watch. That's very nice. Very nice. And they are affordable. I don't know what they go for now, maybe $4,000 or $5,000 with inflation, but that's a beautiful watch. Brianna has that watch now. Dur's in the house. How come Bitcoin isn't sold out if it's so great? Rolex is. It's going to be rare for someone to have one whole Bitcoin, because everyone is going to get rid of the worthless crap within 10 years. Dur's funny. Here's the thing. Rolexes are not sold out. There's a market for Rolexes, just like there's a market for Bitcoin. So you go to Chrono 24 or wherever you go to buy your Rolex, and it has a market price, right? Rolex is the same as Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a market price. There are exchanges where you buy Bitcoin. Right now it's about 31,000. Yesterday it was 30,000. So it goes up and down in price, just like Rolexes go up and down in price. Bitcoin over time outperforms Rolex significantly. It goes up a lot more than Rolex over time. It's the best performing asset of all assets in the last 10 years and so far this year. It's the best performing asset. So, yeah, they all have a market price. A Rolex watch is basically a commodity, just like Bitcoin's a commodity. So neither one of them are, quote, sold out. And you can buy a brand new Bitcoin that's minted by a miner, a virgin Bitcoin. And those are harder to get than the regular one on the exchanges, but that's doable. You can buy them new, just like you can buy a Rolex new. People do it. It's more difficult, right? But people do it. It's the same thing. It's really an A to A comparison. Lost Springbar, Sammy, you should get a Lange 1850 up and down, which is one of the most beautiful watches ever made. Yeah, you should buy his. Take it off his hands, for God's sakes, because he can't sell that damn thing to anybody else. So, yeah, you better buy that thing. Talk about a watch that can't be sold. He thinks the 002 was hard to sell. Wait till he tries to sell that puppy. Sammy, Sammy, whatever you do, don't buy a GS, get a Patek, and just call it a day during the house. Just be ready to pay through the nose when that thing needs servicing. That's all I can say. No one does lugs worse than Lange. It's like they made a pocket watch and soldered on lugs at the end with no consideration to the design. I agree. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's silly. I don't know why they did that. Also, some of the dials on those watches are not that attractive. They don't look like that high end. So I don't know what's going on there. I think that would be a hard pass. Hopefully, Lost Spring Bar kept his 002 and didn't actually sell it. Hopefully, he was smart enough to do that. You can't counterfeit something that doesn't exist. Bitcoin isn't interesting. That's why the viewers always go down when we're talking about it, and the views go up when we talk about Rolex. Actually, my video with what's his name? Darn, now I'm blanking on his name. Jeff Booth. It has more videos than any of my recent videos, more views than any of my other recent videos, significantly more. And he was talking about Bitcoin. So yeah, so that doesn't pan out either. What else? What else can we talk about before we wrap it up? Jeff Booth. Yes, Jeff Booth. Speaking of servicing a watch, I hear a Grand Seiko isn't a cheap service and you have to send that crap way back to Japan to do it. At least Patek one more. No, it's actually, they're actually affordable to service. They cost less to service than a Rolex, and most of them can be serviced right in New Jersey. So yeah, and it takes less time than a Rolex. Rolex takes like 8 weeks or something turnaround time. It's insane. The GS is going to cost less to service and need service less frequently, and it'll be faster. So I like the fact that we can straighten Durr out on these things. He's got a lot of misconceptions on things, and so we're able to straighten him out. Let's see, Craig, with Patek, don't you get an oyster case you can swim with the gold president and GMT? With Patek, you don't get an oyster case. That's correct. If you're going to be swimming, I wouldn't recommend any of these dress watches. I wouldn't recommend this watch if you're going to be swimming with it. I don't swim with my watch. If I go swimming, first of all, it's in a pool. I don't go in the ocean because the ocean is basically the cesspool for the world, right? Everything dumps into the ocean. God knows what's in the ocean, right? As if I'm going to go in there and swim voluntarily. So anyway, if I swim, it's going to be in a pool, and generally speaking, I don't wear my watch when I swim. So, and I don't even swim in pools that often. So, yeah, it depends on your lifestyle. If you're always in the water, swimming and stuff like that, I would definitely have a something with the oyster case. Yeah, I would swim with a day date. I absolutely would. And I wouldn't have it pressure tested every year and all that nonsense. I would just swim with the damn thing. How much does it cost to service a spring drive? What I've heard is it's around $500. I don't have any personal experience with it, but that's what I've heard. There several needs to be stifled. Yeah. And by the way, I gotta say, my favorite purchase from Little Treasury Jewelers so far is not the 002, not the 231, not the faux pay bracelet. It is actually this faux pay necklace. I wear this all the time. I never take this off. Literally never take it off. I shower with it, everything, sleep with it, everything. It's comfortable. It just disappears on my around, yeah, I don't even know it's here hardly, right? And I wear it all the time and I really enjoy it. It's nice, it's comfortable. So I highly recommend a faux pay necklace. A faux pay necklace. And I never wore a necklace before I bought this. I never wore a necklace. I was not a necklace guy. But I like it. I enjoy it. I wear it all the time. I get more use out of it than anything else that I've purchased from Steve because I literally wear it 24/7. So I don't wear my watch when I shower, for example. I take my watch off when I shower. I don't take this off. And guess what? I haven't had to clean it. I just kind of wash it when I'm in the shower. It kind of stays clean. It doesn't really, it looks good. It shines and so on. I don't really have to do anything to it. Zero maintenance, which I like. During the house, I never swim in the water. Craig, you should buy your day date back. No. If I'm going to get another Rolex, which I may or may not do, it will certainly be a modern one with the ceramic sleeves. With the ceramic sleeves in the bracelet. So yeah. And what I did, we talked about it on the other show. I bought an extra Bitcoin when it was 16,000 several months back. I remember on the show here, I was telling everybody they should buy Bitcoin when it bottomed out around 15.5 and it was stayed around 16,000 for quite a while. I said that was the time to buy. Remember that? Anyway, I bought an extra Bitcoin and set it aside to use for when Bitcoin hits 100,000. My plan is to sell that one Bitcoin, pay the capital gain on it, and then take that money and buy something nice. I'm going to buy, first of all, I'm going to buy either a Lexus LS 430 or LS 460. If I can find a really nice one, little old lady car, garage kept, mint condition, all that good stuff, maybe 20, 30,000 miles on it. Or, excuse me, a super nice Toyota Land Cruiser, 200 series, which was the previous model they just stopped making last year or whatever. So again, a mint condition, gorgeous one. They go for pretty heavy money. So I could probably buy one of those for 50 grand in really nice shape. One that's like, let's say 3, 4, 5 years old, something like that. Probably 50 grand. So if I did that, I'd probably have enough left over to buy the GMT. I certainly, if I bought the LS, I should probably be able to get a mint condition one for probably 40 grand at the most. So I'd have enough left over to buy the all gold GMT. So basically I'll end up with a high-end Lexus or Toyota. I could get the Lexus version of the Land Cruiser. It's the same car, the Lexus LS. Is it LS? No, LS is the sedan. Is it LX Anyway, whatever they call their, the one that is the same as the freaking Land Cruiser. So either one of those, you're looking at probably 50 grand for that and probably 40 grand for the sedan. The sedans are less money, even if you get a really nice one, right? They're always going to be less money than the Land Cruiser, uh, comparing apples to apples. Let's see. Panseer. I'm hearing that the SEC isn't done with XRP yet. They will be filing appeals. Be careful out there with your following. XRP is a shit coin. I would not recommend you play around with XRP or any of those shit coins, any of the altcoins. Just life is too short. Just buy Bitcoin. Just buy and hold Bitcoin, and don't worry about the those things are not going to be around. Okay, so Craig, give us a review on the new Indiana Jones movie. He wears a Hamilton in this film. I haven't seen it yet. Yes, glad I made it. Kyle in the house. Let's see. You should come in as a guest. You should come in and give us a report from the West Coast. I sent you the guest link. Craig, have you seen the new Prius? Yes. And I think it's got less headroom in the back, but other than that, I think it's pretty good. No personal experience with services. Come on, Craig, spill the I don't. I don't. I don't. Okay, so don't believe the rumors you hear out there. Let's see, invite. I'm going to invite, copy. I'm going to put the link in the thing here in case anybody wants to come in and they didn't see it in the email. Okay, so there we go. Now, I've lost employees, and Wednesdays and Thursdays are my busiest days right now. Okay, no worries. Yeah, I'm hearing that from a lot of people. It's really hard to get people to work. Nobody wants to work anymore. Imagine that. Nobody wants to freaking work. Okay. Pan-seared ribeye. I'd be way ahead if I just focused on Bitcoin and not chased altcoins. When they crash, they crash hard. Yeah, if you don't get out before they crash, you're a goner. Absolutely. I hope you've learned though, and hopefully you're just stacking Bitcoin now. Craig, how does one go about preparing sweet potatoes? They are so easy. I just cook them in the microwave. So what I do is I take the sweet potato and I have a peeler. I peel it, right? And then I poke it with a knife so it doesn't explode, a couple different places. Then I wrap it in a paper towel. Then I soak the paper towel. Okay. And then I put it in the microwave and zap it in the microwave. Depending on the size of the potato, it might take 4 minutes for some. A real big one might take 8 minutes, right? But I know just from doing it so much, I know roughly, depending on the size of it, how much to zap it. And it cooks great. It cooks evenly all the way through. No problem at all. And then you cut it up. And then what I do is I cut it up down in the bottom of the bowl. I cut it all up. Then I put the avocado on it, all over it. And then I sprinkle it with vinegar. And then while I'm doing all that, whatever I'm putting on the top of it, whether it be beef or fish or whatever, with onions and tomatoes and stuff like that, I'm cooking that in the microwave. And then when that's done, I just pour that all on top of the sweet potato. And then I have a full meal. And it's out of this freaking world. Okay. And so let's see. Okay, me too, Jason. Good seeing all of you. Okay. Just buy Rolex pins here. You should just focus on that. Don't buy imaginary coins. I'm starting to get the impression that maybe Durr has a lot of money invested in Rolexes and he's concerned that he's going to lose all that money. So he's telling everybody else to buy Rolexes. I'm starting to get that impression that maybe that's what's going on here. I could be wrong. But yeah, that could be the situation. He could be stuck with a bunch of watches that he can't sell. Anyone else miss Aiden from Zello. He was pretty great. Yeah, we didn't use Zello for quite a while. Now we're starting to use it again a little bit. Yeah, spring bar, pan-seared has good taste in steak, but is challenged in the watch department. Langes are gorgeous. Um, Never heard of Aiden. That Jello app doesn't work, so I deleted it. No, it's working great. Reinstall it. Okay. Let's see. Nobody needs to work. Flipping Rolexes. Yeah, I mean, if you got an AD that'll still hook you up with Daytonas and you can flip them for a profit, that's probably about the only one you can still flip for a profit. Maybe a Pepsi. But yeah, be careful. You might get stuck with those too, because I think the bottom's going to fall out of all that stuff, especially steel Rolexes. I mean, God, think about it. There's nothing special about a steel watch. I'll prove it here in a minute. I'm going to prove it to you guys here in a minute. Beyond a reasonable doubt, I'm going to prove it. Just give me a minute here. I'm going to get through these comments and I'm going to prove it to you. Okay. No one wants to work because the loss in value of the dollar has taken away raises in salary in the past 30 years. Yeah. Great sub from Hoffman's. Yes. I'm a crab. I'm building my Bitcoin holdings. Excellent. Way to do it. All right, here. I'm going to prove to you that a steel Rolex is not special. All right. Don't take my word for it. I'm going to prove it right now. Let me find the clip. I know I have it here. You know what? Maybe it's in the other thing. Okay, I'm going to switch real quick here. Just give me a second. This only takes a second. I'm going to switch over to Mid-Atlantic TV. There we go. I think I put it in here, video clip. Here we go. All right, pay attention very carefully now, guys. I'm going to let this play twice so you guys can understand. Pay attention very closely to this.
Maybe put on a cheaper watch, though, so he doesn't feel too bad.
Run down to Gary's and get me a stainless Rolex.
I don't play it again. Listen very carefully, guys.
Maybe put on a cheaper watch, though, so he doesn't feel too bad.
Run down to Gary's and get me a stainless Rolex.
You think I'm making this stuff up, okay? The guy said, I don't want you to make this other guy feel too bad because he was wearing a gold watch underneath that cuff. You couldn't really see it, but he normally wears an all gold watch, right? So this guy goes up to him and says, listen, maybe you better wear a cheaper watch so that you don't make him feel bad. And the guy says, okay, here, go buy a stainless steel Rolex. I'm telling you guys, I don't make this stuff up. You guys think I make this stuff up right out of left field, but that's not the case. Okay. All right, let's see what else. That's not a fake coin that's not tangible currency is not special. Okay. I like these messages he gives because we can dissect these and explain. Okay, so here's the deal. What makes Bitcoin special is the problem that Satoshi solved, which is digital scarcity. Up until he figured out how to do it, it was virtually impossible to have something be digital on the internet and be scarce at the same time. Things can be copied, things can be duplicated, et cetera, right? And so what he figured out was how to create digital absolute scarcity so that there will only ever be 21 million units and you can't do anything about it. You can't increase the number. You can't copy one. You can't double spend one. I can't send a Bitcoin to Durr and also to Lost Spring Bar all at the same time. I can't do that. I can't double spend a Bitcoin. Okay. He solved that problem. That's what makes it special. That's why when you say it's not special, you're 180 degrees wrong. It's very special. Some say it's an invention, some say it's a discovery. Either way, did they invent the wheel or did they discover the wheel? Either way, it's a major leap forward as far as technology goes to be able to have a native currency, a native thing of value that's digitally scarce, that lives on the internet, that's native to the internet, that did not exist before Bitcoin, and now it exists. So, and it's real. It's very real. It is backed by more energy by the most powerful computer network known to man. Okay, the computer network that backs Bitcoin makes AWS by Amazon look like child's play. All right, you cannot touch it. Nobody can hack it. Nobody can take it over. It is unassailable. Okay, so yeah, it's far from fake. All that energy, that's real stuff. It's backed by energy, my man. Isn't that show like 10 years old? Time sure changed since Rolex went straight to the moon. he said, go buy a steel Rolex. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You really can't. I mean, my God, people. I hate taking victory laps like that, but I just have to take a victory lap on that one. Lost Spring Bar, can we get Steve on the show to talk about new GS releases this year and the event in the fall? Good luck with that. Yeah, I invite him all the time. He's on the list. He never comes in. So not that I'm bitter. Durr's in the house. If Steve comes on to new releases, it might be a 6-hour show. GS always releases a ton of turds in the toilet bowl. Cheatown's in the house. He says, hey, Craig, Lost Spring Bar. I thought GS was slowing down, but they released as many watches in the first half of 2023 as 2022. Lots for Steve to discuss. Are any of them any good? Are any of them interesting? Do tell. Do they still make the 002? They probably do. Glad to see Durr is fulfilling his civic duty of dunking on GS. Just add another couple of O's and ones, and there's a new Bitcoin. Nothing special. It's just some numbers on a computer screen. Check this out. Here is a free Bitcoin for the viewers. Good luck trying to spin that one. Good luck trying to send that one over the Bitcoin network. Let's see how that works out for you. That's another interesting. See, he brings up some great points with these messages here. This is what's really neat about the Bitcoin network, is it is opt-in. You decide voluntarily if you want to participate in the network. And if you follow the rules, that's the key point here. If you follow the rules of the network, then you can participate in it. You can mine Bitcoin. You can earn Bitcoin by mining it. You can send a transaction. You can sign and broadcast a transaction as long as you're following the rules. If you deviate from the rules, you can still do whatever you want to do. It will just be ignored by the network. You'll be off to the side, like yelling and screaming, and nobody will hear you, right? Type of thing. And so that's the genius of it, is anybody can participate in it and do whatever you want. But if you don't follow the rules, you're just ignored. It's as if you don't even exist. And that's what a shitcoin is. If they do a fork of Bitcoin, if they take the Bitcoin code and they fork it, like they did with Bitcoin Cash, I call it B-Trash, then that exists. That's a fork of Bitcoin, and it's out there, and there are people mining and participating on it and all that and doing their thing and so forth. But they're ignored by Bitcoin, by the real Bitcoin. Okay, they're just a fork. They just took the wrong fork in the road, and they're lost in la la land. And there's no consequence to Bitcoin. They're just as if they don't even exist. So that's again the genius of Bitcoin is it's strictly opt-in. It's strictly voluntary. You choose to participate or you don't choose to participate. If nobody chooses to participate, then yeah, the network would have no value. Networks only have value if people choose to participate. And fortunately for Bitcoin, it's doubling every year. The number of people that are participating in the network is doubling year over year. Craig, what do you think of the new Sony A5700? I don't know. I'm gonna have to check it out. Let's see here. I haven't checked it out. I'm wondering if it's any real significant improvement. Let me put that on for a second here. All right, wait. Let's go to the watch until I find it. Sony A5700. Let me see if I can find this here. Sony A5700. Oh, wait. I don't see it here. I see Sony A5000. A5700. First Sony. Sony A57 upgrade. Should you buy?
Hey folks, Matt from ReadyTheImage.com. I have a question here from Masood Nazari, and he writes in, I hope I'm saying that right, Masood. Hello, Matt. 3 years ago, based on your recommendations, I purchased the Sony A57. If I want to upgrade to a better camera, would you recommend going to full frame or staying in crop sensor cameras? If my main
Wait, this is 7 years ago.
camera models do you suggest? Since I have
Okay, so I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I meant A6700. Oh, God help me. Okay. I mean, when did this thing come out? Oh, yeah, it looks like the same old shit. Yeah, no, that looks like the same old stuff they've had out forever. I doubt there's anything special about it. I've been waiting for a major upgrade of the APS-C Sony cameras for years, and they don't seem to be doing it. None of the new GS releases are interesting at all. They released a limited edition Swana and then released 2 regular production and made everyone upset. Then a chrono with a regular Seiko movement. Wow. Hello, Honorable CraigShip. What about investment in gold? At least better than Rolex. Rolex is unsellable. Gold hasn't been doing anything. Let me pull this back up. Gold has been flat. I think what's happening is the typical gold investors are deciding that they'd rather do Bitcoin. And that's why Bitcoin has outperformed gold just significantly this year. I mean, it's not even close, but gold has been flat. Bitcoin's way up. So no, I would just go with the Bitcoin. I think gold is passé at this point. I think people understand that Bitcoin's the new gold. Craig should have hodled his Goldwing Jaguar E-Type. If you do the math, first of all, it's expensive to keep cars. And really, if you take the money and you invest it in like just the S&P 500 and just let it sit there, you would be ahead as compared to if you kept some of those classic cars from back in the day. That's just the truth of the matter. And back when I was dealing in cars, obviously you can't keep the cars, otherwise you're not making money, right? I had a 68 Shelby GT 500 KR convertible. Those are worth like $1 million now, whatever. I sold that. So a lot of those cars I had back in the day would be a lot more valuable now, but you would have had to keep it for 40 years. All right, that's expensive. And that car, I think I sold that car for about 8,000, the KR convertible, back in the day. And so, yeah, if you took that 8,000 and invested it for 40 years in the S&P 500, that would be the $1 million or more, right? And so you would do fine just investing, or if you invested it in some raw land, some real estate somewhere where they're going to build up later, right? That raw land was always the way to make the most money. That's how Astor became the richest man in the United States of America, is by buying land in Manhattan. Okay, Manhattan. You should watch the documentary on him. So yeah, that's the way to really get rich, is by buying raw land that later becomes extremely valuable. Buy the raw land and then hold it. Buy it by the acre and then sell it by the foot. That's what you do. So yeah, the 231 looks really shiny and looks like it's running really fast. Craig, have you ever been to Japan? No, I have not, but that would be fun. Okay, hey, we've gone for an hour. Let's see here. Cheetown, yeah, see, again, I love these comments. I love these comments because they stimulate important conversations. Land is one thing they don't make more of nowadays. Think about that. Think about that comment. Okay? And then think about the fact that the island of Manhattan, about 1/3 of it is man-made. Some of the most valuable real estate in this country, 1/3 of it was man-made. What they did was the Dutch came in and they filled in a lot of marshland and low-lying, non-buildable property, and they expanded the island of Manhattan to add more real estate because it was so valuable. And this is being done all around the globe, all around the globe. In Japan, they've reclaimed and added a lot of land. In Dubai, they've added a bunch of new land. A lot of places do this. This is not uncommon to reclaim and add more land. There are plans right now on the books to add, like, I don't know, something like 200, 300 acres more land to Manhattan, to the whole lower part, just extend the whole lower part of Manhattan. There's a plan. It might even be more acres than that. It's a significant addition of land that has been proposed and they're talking about doing, right? Who knows if they'll get it approved and they'll actually do it. But yeah, they do make more land. And in Hawaii, there are active volcanoes that are spewing out and that are growing and making more land. Okay. There's actually one volcano that is still below the surface of the ocean, but it's growing and growing and growing. And eventually it will come up and it will make a new island in the chain of Hawaii. This might be hundreds of years from now, right? But yes, they are making more land. So that is very interesting. Bitcoin, no. Bitcoin has a hard cap of 21 million units, period. Done. They can't make more of it. So it's really the only investable asset that we have that has an actual hard cap, provable, verifiable scarcity. Okay, land doesn't have that. Gold doesn't have that, because we don't know how much gold they're going to dig out of the ground. We don't know how much gold they're going to get from not satellites, from, well, you know what I mean. Those, whatever they call them. You know what I'm talking about. You can even go to the freaking moon and get some gold probably, right? Asteroids, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so anyway, we don't know how much gold is in the freaking ocean. We don't know, right? We don't know how much oil there is either. So all these other things we don't know. It's not, you can't verify exactly how many exist. With Bitcoin, you can verify, anybody can verify how many exist. It's unique. going back to Durr's comment, that's what makes it special. It's one of the things that makes it special. Verifiable scarcity. What do you think are the top 3 investments? Again, if you can buy raw land somewhere where there's going to be a lot of development, like for example, if you bought some land down in El Salvador near where they're going to make Bitcoin City, if you bought some raw land down there and then sat on it for 10 or 20 years, I think you'd be sitting pretty. So you find a place where there's going to be a lot of development and a lot of growth, and you just buy some raw land, acreage, right? 20, 30 acres, whatever. The more the better, right? And then you sit on it and just wait. Other than that, I can't, again, I can't think of a better asymmetric bet than Bitcoin. Rolex, Patek, and Artemis. Reclaimed soil has its limits. If you live in the Pacific like I do, tends to turn to slush when a big earthquake goes through the destroyed part of Kobe, Japan in 1995. Yeah, well, obviously, depends on how well it's done. The Dutch have been reclaiming land for like hundreds of years, and they do a pretty good job of it. So yeah, obviously, it's like anything else. You need to do it right in order for it to hold up. But the land that they've added to Manhattan has been fine. I mean, they haven't really had any issues with that. And there's a lot of buildings that are built on fill. If you do it right, yeah, you have to do it right. You have to, a lot of times you have to take that foundation down to the bedrock. You got to go way down to the bedrock and go up from there with your foundation. But it's doable. And it's only worth it if the land is then ultimately worth a lot of money, like land on Manhattan would be, right? I mean, obviously, you're not going to go to all that expense if it's in the middle of freaking nowhere and nobody cares. You're only going to add to land that is extremely valuable. A guy Brett and I know purchased a secondary new sub last year for $12K and just let it go for 10.6. Whoa. Interesting. And it was still unworn. So he didn't have takers? None of the gray market guys would give him more than that? Do tell. Late to the party, have you all spoken about BTC and crypto? Yes, Daniel, we did. You're going to have to go back and watch from the beginning. We did talk about it. Land reclamation is now Singapore makes more room, helps because Singapore tends to be more seismically stable than its neighbors. Yeah, you got to take all those things into consideration. Absolutely. That's one thing we have an advantage on the East Coast of the United States is it's a lot more stable as far as earthquakes and stuff like that. So that's why Manhattan it's very stable. Just scan my Mac. No viruses as usual. Okay. Check out the new Lexus 2024 GX. Yeah, they're pretty good. I still think I would rather, for the same amount of money, I would rather buy a Land Cruiser, a 3 or 4 year old Land Cruiser in mint condition. The GX is okay, but it ain't a Land Cruiser. Okay. It just isn't. It's more like a 4Runner, right? Okay, if exchanges started listing Satoshi prices instead of Bitcoin, there would be a major FOMO. People would like to own whole units. People are starting to figure that out. People are starting to learn that you can buy parts of a Bitcoin. It's just this whole Bitcoin thing is just an education thing. It's a knowledge arbitrage, right? It's the people that know, that are familiar with Bitcoin. They're taking advantage of it and they will benefit tremendously because they had that knowledge. The people that don't have the knowledge, they'll come in later. Most people will probably be buying Bitcoin when it's like 100 grand or more. And a lot of them will be buying Bitcoin and might not even know they're buying Bitcoin. They might just be participating in some network that requires Bitcoin. And, maybe they're using Cash App and they put money in there and then they're moving money from one person to the other and that's moving over the Bitcoin rails. And so they're using the network and helping to make the network stronger and so forth. And they don't even necessarily know it. So there's going to be a lot of use of the Bitcoin network by people that don't even know that they're participating in it. So these a lot of these companies are starting to build infrastructure to use the Bitcoin Lightning rails as infrastructure to move money around. And to do that, they need to populate it with Bitcoin. So they need to buy Bitcoin in order to open those channels and to do all that. So it'll all benefit Bitcoin, but a lot of people will be using those services and won't even know that they're participating in Bitcoin. Own whole units of digital numbers on a computer screen. Okay. Your thoughts on declining commercial real estate in the US? We talked about that. There's a podcast by Rick Edelman that I highly recommend. Let me give you the name of the podcast. Where is it? Podcasts. I think it's The Truth About Money, but I'm trying to find it here to make sure. Rick Edelman. The icon just says Rick Edelman. I think the name of the podcast is The Truth About Money. Anyway, just search Rick Edelman, find his podcast. It's really good. He did one about real estate. He just released it today. And it's not looking good. There's a lot of commercial real estate being sold right now at heavy losses. There are major companies. There's like 2 big hotels, and he mentioned in San Francisco that the owners are walking away from the mortgage and just basically defaulting. And that's happening like left and right. And so, yeah, there's some serious problems in commercial real estate. And there's also going to be problems in residential too, in a lot of areas. There's going to be major problems in real estate, period, because of the higher interest rates, right? People are screwed. People that owe a lot of money on their real estate, they're screwed when they have to refinance that at a higher rate. A lot of them are screwed and just gonna have to walk away and take the hit. The new GX is incredible, love it. Yeah, but Kyle, it's just not a Land Cruiser. You know, I'm sorry, it's just not at the same level as a Land Cruiser. Land Cruiser is a whole different beast. Craig, do you watch Car Care Nut? Yes, I absolutely watch him. He's really good. He's really good. He knows his stuff. I would not hesitate if I buy, let's say, for example, I buy a 2006 LS 430 with like 22,000 original miles on it. That's like in mint condition. I would not hesitate to take that car up to him and spend a couple days up there and just have him go through it and change all the fluids and just do anything it needs just to make sure that it's, ready to go. He's that good that it would be worth a road trip with a car like that. And same thing if I buy a Land Cruiser. Let's say I bought a 5-year-old Land Cruiser with like 40,000 miles on it that was like new. I would take it to him and have all the fluids changed and have anything done that needed to be done just to make sure it's in stand-up condition, because he would be the guy to do it. He doesn't do anything halfway, and he doesn't use any aftermarket parts BS. He just put a video up, I think yesterday or the day before, explaining how heavy duty and well built the Land Cruisers are. So check that out. There's a bunch of videos explaining why the Land Cruisers are a unique beast. Totally unique. 2024 Lexus GS is still better than any Land Rover. Oh, yeah. It would be my number 2 choice. But I'll tell you what, I would buy the 2023 4Runner over that new GX. I absolutely would. because it's old school. It just has the V6. It has the 5-speed automatic. It doesn't have anything to give trouble on it. It doesn't have the twin turbos and all that stuff. I mean, it's old school. And those are known to go 400,000 miles without any sweat, right? So I would probably buy that before I would buy the GX. Just a freaking Forerunner, right? But again, I wouldn't really buy either. I would buy the Land Cruiser. And you can buy the Lexus version of the Land Cruiser. I guess they call it an LX. Yeah, I think that's what they call it. It's the same freaking car. It's a Land Cruiser, right? And again, but I wouldn't buy the one with the current grill and all that crap. I'd buy the previous generation before they screwed up the whole front end on the LX. Yeah. Actually, GX is going to be our Land Cruiser. Yeah, but it's not a real Land Cruiser. It's not. It's like the Prada. It's like the lower line one. Yeah, they call them a Land Cruiser. There's a bunch of cars overseas that they call Land Cruiser, and they have like the 70 series. And oh, Christ's sake, I got to go out of that thing. That's a Zello app. So anyway, so they've got, they've got all these different levels of Land Cruiser. And then the top of the line before the current one came out was the 200 series here in the US, right? And so that's the one that is super heavy duty, overbuilt, built like a freaking tank. Now, again, the GX is not, I mean, it's not terrible. It's just not anywhere near on the level of the real Land Cruiser. It's not at the same level. Okay. Not even close. And that, again, that's not to say that there's anything wrong with the GX. The GX is, I'm sure it's going to be amazing. The previous ones were amazing, but they're not a Land Cruiser. What I would call the real Land Cruiser, the high-end Land Cruiser, put it that way. People won't be owning BTC once it hits 100 grand. They'll be owning Satoshi. Well, a lot of people won't be owning a whole Bitcoin. That's right. It'll get to the point where it's going to be very difficult for most people to have one whole Bitcoin. Once many people got a taste of working from anywhere and realize that showing up to the office is BS, a lot of them don't want to go back. That's correct. China's real estate mortgage crisis is pretty gargantuan right now. Tons of people defaulting, lots of layoffs in their tech. Yes, it is a cluster, you know what. Land Cruiser, I'm not sure what that is. The top of the top. I'm sure the one that, even the Land Cruisers that they sold up until, 2002 was the last year or something here in the U.S., those even had different trim levels. There were like a couple different trim levels. They weren't that different, right? But all of them were pretty loaded and pretty high end, right? They didn't have like a budget Land Cruiser here in the US. They have them. They have like 200 series Land Cruisers that you could buy overseas that are much more stripped down. The ones like the terrorists use and all that stuff, in the deserts and all that. They have some that are much more stripped down than what we have here in the US, but they're still just as heavy duty. Like the suspension and all that kind of stuff is super heavy duty in those. He like the car care nut said, the control arms in those things are freaking massive, right? And he says he's just never seen one of those fail. It just doesn't happen, right? They're just totally overbuilt. And he was like chastising people that take all that stuff off and put aftermarket stuff on there to do like a lift and all this crap. He said they totally screw up the car because the stuff they take off is a lot better than the stuff they put on. So anyway, okay, we got to wrap this up. Once it hits 100 grand, nobody buying BTC. They'll be buying Satoshi. Don't be late to the party. Okay. Don't buy any of that stuff. Just buy Rolex. Yeah, take those Rolexes off of his hands so he can get some money out of those damn things. I saw a guy with a watch box full of steel Rolexes. He had like 30 steel Rolexes in there. And I'm like, my God, man, there's not one gold stunner in it. Oh, I don't like gold. I said, what are you, fucking crazy? Excuse my French. This guy had 30 steel Rolexes and not one gold stunner. I said, why don't you sell those damn things and buy yourself a day date and then wear it? Well, I won't make any money on that. I'm like, guy, have you looked at the prices lately? You ain't making any money on all that other stuff you got in that box either. Craig, has the Prevost market cooled down? If not, I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. Yes. Everything's going to cool down. We're going into some dicey times, I think. The new 2024 GX is still going to be called the Land Cruiser Prado in different markets. When I was in Oman, the GX 460 and Prado were sold side by side. Yeah, exactly. That's like the lower line unit. During the house. Craig, when was the last time you broke out the Segway? I rode it at the Barbara Fritchie Classic motorcycle race on July 4th. I took it there and used it. It comes in handy at big events like that. So I do use it, not as often because I'm not going to as many events now, but whenever I go to a big event, I bring it. And it ran fine. It ran great. When the Satoshi is worth $1, then Bitcoin will be worth 1 million. That's correct. That's correct. And we're headed there. Chances are the new Prado will not have the twin turbos from the new GX, like how the Prado didn't have the V8 from the 460. I don't know. I think the quote Land Cruiser, I think it's going to have the twin turbo, the V6 with the twin turbos. I think it's going to have that engine, be my guess. And they're going to call it a Land Cruiser, I'm sure, here in the US. Craig should bring the Segway to the next event. Okay. If I go, yes. They discontinued Land Cruiser in 2021. What is the model year to get? I mean, that's hard to say. That the car care nut basically says it doesn't make that much difference. He did mention a couple model years to stay away from. He's got some good videos on that sort of thing, but most of them are really good. So, if you got like a 2017 or a 2016, something like that with real low mileage, just a really nice garage kept one, you want it to be garage kept, period, full stop. You don't want it from the Rust Belt, right? You want it from the southern areas, but you want it garage kept. So it hasn't been out in like the pounding sun and all that crap. And you want low mileage. Get that. That's what you do. They're overbuilt, never fail, unlike Grand Seiko Spring Drive movement. Come on, you guys. We got to wrap up the comments here. I got to eat. I'm getting hungry. The FJ70 old school Land Cruiser was offered with twin turbo V8 diesel in a lot of markets. Imagine that for an overland. Yeah. Yeah. And I like the inline 6-cylinder diesels too. 30 steel Rolexes. What an alpha male. Lost Spring Bar, the newer the better. I had around 6 Land Cruisers at one time, almost all series, but now only 2. They're the best. There you go. Good. Just get the 200 series. Yeah, I agree. All right, and it's got the tailgate, Okay, we're going to wrap it up, folks. This has been a good one. We've saved a lot of people a lot of money on this podcast. All right, Craig, go eat. Enjoy your nutritious sweet potato. We'll do it. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, check out the Zello app, guys. Get back in the Zello app. It's starting to buzz.